This podcast contains some strong language and some stories involving violence. Listener discretion is advised.
Welcome to Warfighters United. Today's podcast is brought to you by Modern Woodmen Fraternal Financial, an organization that will help navigate life's most important decisions, from life insurance to college to financial planning. Modern Woodmen has your family covered. To find out more or become part of the Modern Woodmen family, go to modernwoodmen.org. Welcome to Warfighters United. We have a great guest on today. He's a retired Sgt Major of the National Guard from Michigan, and he also runs the VFW National home in Eaton Rapids, one of our biggest hidden gems. But before we talk about the National home, I'd like to hear a little bit about your military service. When did you join the National Guard?
I joined the National Guard in 1982. Michigan was... there was bumper stickers on cars that said, last one out of Michigan, turn out the lights. Everybody was heading south where jobs were. There was no jobs in Michigan. Had a brand new child and spouse and couldn't find a job. There was an ad in the newspaper that said, for a smart-time, part-time job, give us a call. And I called, and 4 hours later, there was an Army Jeep and a recruiter sitting in my driveway.
It only took them 4 hours.
Didn't take them long. I enlisted on September 21st and was on my way to basic training on November 7th. So...
Wow, so you answered that call from that bumper sticker.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right.
And so about 10, 11 years later, you found yourself in Desert Storm.
Yep, 1991. Actually got the call on December 6th, or December 26th, the day after Christmas. Was having leftover dinner with family and got a call and said, we're being activated. You know, the invasion had taken place already, of course, and things were moving right along, and we got called up on the 26th, and by January 3rd, we were gone. So.
And what was your job when you went to Desert Storm?
I was a team leader for an armored and artillery repair section. And so we were a mobile repair section. We could go out to the broke equipment and fix it on site, or we could drag it back if we had to. And so I was the supervisor of all that.
And what was that like going over to Kuwait?
Well, we never got there. So we left Michigan. We went to Fort McCoy, Wisconsin, 10 degrees below zero to train up for the desert. Makes a lot of sense, right?
Right.
But we didn't have the equipment available because two maintenance companies had went before us. Two maintenance companies had went before us, and so we didn't have equipment. So we had to go to Germany to get equipment. And so we mobilized to Germany, picked up the equipment at the preposition equipment site in Holland, actually, got it down to Nuremberg, and before we got a chance to get on it and head down south with the equipment, the war was over. And so we didn't get outside of Germany. That's where we stayed for the next 6 months. And so,
actually, that's not a bad idea. I hear Germany is not that bad.
It wasn't bad. We worked. I mean, we had a lot of work to do. There was no equipment there to work on. I mean, there was no parts, so everything went south, you know. And so we were helping bring some units back and doing stuff like that. But we never got any farther than that.
And then fast forward another 10 to 12 years, you ended up getting a call to go to the wonderful country of Iraq.
That's right, yep. So I was the camp sergeant major for a camp on the border of Iraq and Kuwait, and spent some time there. You know, most of my stuff was there most of the time anyway. Was on the road a lot and doing a lot of different things, but was there from August until February. I had a pretty significant internal injury and had to leave the country and had to lie on stool for a little while and ended up back in Fort Gordon, Georgia, where I had to have a pretty significant surgery to fix the bleeding going on inside of me. And,
wow. Well, we're glad they fixed that and you made it.
I'm glad, too. I'm very glad. Yeah.
And what was it like, controlling from the beginning to the end as a command sergeant major? That's a lot of soldiers to take care of.
It was. At one time, we had about 1,100 soldiers in our command at one point, and 5 companies plus a headquarters company, and so that's 6 first sergeants that I worked with, and it was tough times. You know, it was 05, 06, 07, height of the war. You know, we had units gone, we had units coming back, we were gone on visit units, we were just all over the place. There was no time for a civilian career during that time. I was pretty much on active duty most of the time, and so it was tough. But of course, we got through it just fine. So.
Yeah, Michigan's always been one of our nation's strongest states when it comes to the military and the people who join up and the people who serve.
Absolutely.
And it's kind of like part of the backbone of the United States.
Absolutely.
And so you get out after being a sergeant major. What do you do after that?
Well, I got out in January of 2009. Shortly after that, I was working a civilian job. I was working for my brother-in-law at a boiler company, doing some. I was still kind of getting over the injuries that I'd had, and I got a call from a friend of mine, as a colonel, that offered me an opportunity to go back to work for the Army. So I went back to work for the Army for about 5.5 years, doing survivor outreach services. Now, you want to know what that is?
Yes, I do.
So I was the long-term care and support for surviving family members when service members were killed in action. And so the casualty notification would take place, casualty assistance would take place, and then the survivor outreach services people would come in and make sure the family was taken care of for the long term. So,
wow. I'm sure you missed being out of the National Guard, but then to, jump right back in and go to a job like that.
Yeah, it was tough, but it was rewarding. I mean, every single family member that I worked with, we went through some of the darkest times in their life together, and so there's still a lot of them like family to me, and we see each other and talk to each other and stay in touch, and so that was the rewarding part of it. I couldn't give them what they wanted. I couldn't give them their soldier back, but I could give them everything else, that they certainly deserved, and so, from grief support to benefits to all those things, and then gave them a friend, someone they could lean on if they needed to talk or work through issues. So,
wow. Just hearing you talk about that gave me the chills, from head to toe. Yeah. Because I think about my friends that have passed, that got killed overseas, and what their families probably went through, and just the long term after that, when they have little kids and stuff, and having that help that you provided probably meant a lot to them.
It did. I mean, I still send birthday cards out to some of those kids, and see them, and so some of them were toddlers, some were babies, never got to know their mom or dad. And but it was a rewarding job. Like I said, I really enjoyed doing it. Got to meet soldiers and service members that were also, close friends. Brotherhood. It's a brotherhood and sisterhood. And so they're just as close sometimes as the family members. And so I got to meet a lot of those folks. And I really enjoyed the job. But there was a time for it to come to an end. And I had an offer to go to work for Michigan's Veteran Affairs Agency. Sorry about that.
Yeah, right.
I had an opportunity to go work for Michigan Veterans Affairs Agency, so I started doing that. I spent about almost 6 years as a regional coordinator, coordinating all the veterans programs and resources in Southwest Michigan. Did that for another 5 or 6 years. First person to ever do that, and it's still going today. The program's still going today. We ended up turning that into a 501c3 nonprofit in Southwest Michigan that takes care of veterans, and so I learned a lot. I learned a lot about veterans. I learned a lot about resources. I learned a lot about non-resources, the resources that weren't there that veterans needed. I learned about advocacy, working through the legislation and working through Congress to advocate for veterans. And so that prepared me for what I'm doing today.
And now you're the executive administrator for the Veteran Affairs, or not Veteran Affairs, the VFW National Home.
That's right, executive director. Yep.
And so the VFW National Home, it's hit its 100-year anniversary this year.
That's right.
And it didn't always be what it is today.
That's right.
It was something different 100 years ago. Maybe tell me a little bit about the history of the VFW National Home.
Yeah, so, 1923, 1924, 5 years after World War I was over with, there's still veterans struggling, just like after these wars, there's still veterans struggling, although they struggled more, widows, orphan children, had no benefits. Back in 1925, there was no benefits. If you were injured or killed in combat, there was no benefits for your family. And so a lot of them were struggling. The VFW recognized that. The Military Order of the Cootie, which is a ancillary organization of the VFW, had already been working on a plan, but of course, big plans like that take big money. Along comes a fellow named Corey Spencer, who owned a 472-acre cattle farm in Eaton Rapids, Michigan. Decided in his heart, he was also a VFW member, World War I soldier. In his heart, he decided the best thing for him to do was to donate his farm to the VFW to start that program, to start the VFW National Home. And so on January 7th, 1925, they signed the Articles of Incorporation, took over the farm, and started building the VFW National Home. And so the first family moved in 2.5 months later when their father and husband was killed in an accident in Detroit, Michigan, at the time called Fort Wayne. Getting there his last paycheck. He was there he was retiring and getting his final paycheck. And so, no benefits. And so his wife and 6 kids moved into the VFW National home March 7th, 1925. So.
Wow. And 100 years ago, that's how it all began.
That's how it began.
And then, over the years, they started building houses.
Yeah, so almost immediately the houses started being built. Matter of fact, the Pollitt family, the first family to move in, moved into a hand shack. It was just a big square building with no rooms in it, and it was where farmhands would live when they were there to stay. And so they moved in there until they could get a house ready for them. And so it wasn't long after that the construction started. And in the first 6 years, they built 11 houses. And so it was moving pretty fast. It was quite a popular program for veterans throughout the VFW, and it grew from there. Of course, 1931, the Depression happened and slowed down the construction process. It didn't take long after that, though. 38, 39, they started building again and built houses on through the 50s and 60s. And so up to 400 or up to 40 homes at that time. So, and then since then we built a few more since then. But the predominance of the organization was built from 1925 to 1960s.
Right, and so every house has a name.
Yep, they're all named after the state that supports them.
And so how does that work? So a state decides to support the VFW National Home.
Yep.
I know there's like 7 states that haven't done it yet, and we're hoping that this will reach them.
Yes, absolutely, yeah.
But so the state's VFWs and everybody takes care of that home throughout the year, or how does that work?
Yeah, so we'll take, for example, the first house, the oldest house on campus, the first house built there, we call the Michigan House. It was finished in 1927, and the Department of Michigan has supported that house since 1927, and so they raise funds every year, and they come up with between $8,000 and $10,000 to pay for the cost of maintenance, utilities, and upkeep of the house. And so each individual house is sponsored by a department of VFW. Right down the street from the Michigan House is the Indiana House, sponsored by Indiana, same thing. So that's how we maintain all the houses.
Wow. It's nice. Now we need to get those other 7 on board.
Yeah, and they're lining up. They want to get a house. So,
yeah. Yeah, and so it used to be just, for the women and children,
Yep.
but years ago, you guys decided to change that.
Yeah. So, as the years go by, wars change, survivability of combat got better, benefits got better for widows and survivors, and there was less and less need for those style of homes. There was less and less orphan children that had a need. And so in the early 2000s, they started accepting veterans, the whole veteran family, into the program. But it was a smaller population of veterans. It was veterans that were qualified for VR&E. And so, veterans rehabilitation programs. So so that helped a little bit, but then as the years go by, there's even less and less of those that need help, especially in the younger years. And so in about 2012, 2013, they decided it was time to open the place up for the full veteran family, regardless of the veterans' benefits or what needs they had, and became a goal-oriented program where veterans came with goals, their families came with goals, and they had to complete those goals while they were living there. And that's what we do today.
Well, kind of explain those goals, because I know you guys do a color system, over the period of time that, depending on which spot that they're in or, or where they are in the level of help.
Yeah.
How does that work?
So 3 years ago when I got there, it was a program based on goals, but you would set the goals when you first got there, and you would have 3 or 4 years to complete those goals with only having to make a little progress every year. You didn't have to make a lot of progress. You had to make a little. So a lot of times, and naturally, human nature, families would wait till their 3rd or 4th year to really get into it and start working it, and so sometimes they'd fail. They would never finish their goals. So we changed it last year, about a year and a half ago now, I guess, and started what we call the red, white, and blue program. So now the goals are phase-based. And so the family arrives in the red phase. And that red phase is when we work on reducing limiting beliefs, reducing barriers, getting them to believe that they can be more than they are. And so a limiting belief, for example, is we don't think we'll ever own a home because we don't make good enough money to save a down payment. We don't think we'll ever have a good paying job because we don't have an education. And so those limiting beliefs, we do our best to reduce those and reduce the barriers that come with those by helping them find a job, helping them get GI Bill and go to college, helping them get mortgage ready and save money so that they can someday own a home. They complete the red phase. They have to complete the red phase to graduate to the white phase. when they graduate to the white phase, that's growing and learning. So now we know what your goals are. We know what you want to achieve in your time here. What is it going to take to get you there? Do you need GI Bill and college education to have the job you want? Do you need mortgage readiness training or money management training to help you save? Do you need a better paying job? You got the education, but you just don't have the locality for a job. So whatever that is, we start that process. And we don't actually teach it on campus, but we have resources all around that help teach them what they need to know to get to where they want to be. They finish that, the white phase. They move into the blue phase. And the blue phase is all about transition. We all know that served in the military, there's transition, right? When we say we're done, we're done. They say, okay, in 30 days, get out of here. Well, we take a little longer than that. We take a year to 18 months in the blue phase for them to learn the community they're going to go to. So they made up their mind they're going to move to LaGrange, Texas, we'll say. Where's the hospital in LaGrange, Texas? Where's the VFW in that town? Where's the local church that you might want to attend? What's the school like your kids are going to go to? Learn all that stuff before you go there. Make sure that's the place where you want to be forever, because that's where you're going to buy your home and live. And so figure that all out before you leave the national home, because when you leave the national home, you can't come back.
Right.
Yeah. So we never tell them that. But, we want them to graduate and do good things. And so they finish the blue phase, they move into transition phase, and that's where they move, and they move on. And we celebrate. We celebrate their growth. We celebrate their success, and they remain our friends and family forever and ever. So.
And so with those three phases, I know there's a lot more that goes into that, especially the aspect of the people helping them out. You said sometimes you outsource them, but I've heard Katie speak quite a bit about, some of the counselors that you guys have there to help facilitate them making goals, help facilitate them, coming up with a plan of action. Yeah. And so tell me a little bit about that. How does that all work, and where do you see that going in the next 10 years?
Okay.
Hello, I'm Eric Calley from the Warfighters United podcast, and Modern Woodmen Fraternal Financial is hosting the 4th annual Trucking for Troops Veteran Raffle to benefit local veterans. The raffle's grand prize will be a brand new 2026 Chevrolet Silverado Crew Cab 4x4. Raffle tickets are $100 each. The drawing will take place on November 10th at 2 p.m. All proceeds from the raffle tickets will go towards supporting veterans. All tickets can be purchased at Modern Woodman, Shaheen Chevrolet, or the VFW Post 2406 in Charlotte.
So every family is assigned a case manager when they get there, and that case manager is focused on that family. They're focused on them goals. They let us know what the goals are, and then that case manager works through resources, local, whether they're local or on campus, to make sure they're achieving those goals. In the red phase, the families literally have to report to their case manager every couple of weeks where they're at. Every phase of all three phases there's a goal about money. It's whether it's saving or money management or whatever, there's a goal about money. There's goals about education or whatever. And that's what the case manager does. They work, very intently with that family to make sure that they're achieving those goals. Because it's easy for us to cross our arms and sit back and say, I just can't do this. It takes somebody to tell them, yes, you can. Yes, you can. We know you can. We've seen it happen. We've seen it done, and someone can help you get you through that. And so the case managers do that. In the meantime, there's another program called Supportive Services. That program helps the kids. So after school, tutoring, studying, whatever, but also programs and fun. They have a lot of fun. In the summer months, they do what they call summer enrichment. They go to a pool. They go to a library. They do all kinds of field trips. They do games and fun stuff around campus. That takes the heat off mom and dad. The kids don't need to be a part of mom and dad's problem. We want them to be kids and enjoy their time as children while mom and dad work through the things that they got to work through. And so then finally the littles, the 0 to 6-year-olds, 0 to 4-year-olds, we have on-site daycare. And so the kids are taken care of there while mom and dad's working or while they're looking for work. And so in the meantime, they get a little bit of education there. So they're ready for kindergarten by the time they get to kindergarten, because the teachers there at the Early Education Center make sure the kids are ready for school.
Wow. I mean, that's just amazing that we have a facility that does all that.
Yeah.
Well, what do you think?
What I like the best about it?
What?
It's free.
Yes.
It doesn't cost a penny. So.
Doesn't cost a penny. And
right.
While that veteran and family are living there, doesn't cost them anything.
Doesn't cost them a penny. They got to buy their food. That's about it. And so.
Right, but that also gives them time to start preparing for that 4-year, departure.
That's right, exactly. Save a little money, work towards a down payment of a house, learn to manage money better, make sure you have a dependable automobile, make sure you can afford the school you want to go to. It gives them a chance to do all that. Literally, take a knee, as we say in the military. Take a knee, figure out what you're going to do and how you're going to do it and how you're going to get out of here. And so,
it's totally life changing. And
it is.
I had the pleasure of hearing one of the residents talk the other day. We had Jake Rademacher and his team there, for the Brothers After War ceremony. And, he was telling about some of his struggles and about some of the help he's gotten, and I've got to imagine over the last 100 years, all the amount of people, the wives, the children, and now the veterans that are being able to experience not only, this life-changing 4 years, but to realize that there's places out there that care about them more so than they ever began, before they got there.
And, it's interesting you say that because when they move there, they can't believe that. It's like, all right, where's the hidden fine print? Where's the smoking gun? This can't be true. Somewhere along the line, I'm paying for this. No, you're not. And what I tell them is we are a 501c3 nonprofit. We are not tax-based. We do not use tax dollars. The money that comes here comes from another veteran who went overseas and survived a war and made it home and got a job and raised his or her family and had a little bit something extra, and they donate to the National Home for you. That's what this program, that's why it's free. Someone has went out of their way not only to defend our country, but also help pay to help you be a better person.
And so you guys put on a lot of different events, whether it's the Michigan event, Ohio event, you have states that come in and they have events throughout the year.
Yeah.
But I believe I heard it costs somewhere between $4 to $6 million for you to run that program every year. It's
$4.5 to $6 million is the cost. And so, and that's all fundraising, that's all private donations, and it's an expensive organization to take care of, but it's well worth it. It's well worth it. The money that we invest in that veteran and family will go on forever. It may even break the cycle for some who've grown up in poverty, whose family had grown up in poverty, and it may break that cycle for them and allow them to be more successful than anyone in their family ever has been. And so that to me is precious. It's worth its weight in gold.
And so out of the years that you've been in charge there, what are some of the greatest things that you've seen? Oh my goodness. There's been so much. There's been so much. We watched a veteran come in who moved there with his 2 children, wife out of the picture, living in his mom and dad's basement, couldn't work, couldn't find a job. He was let out of the Army on a general discharge when he should have got an honorable discharge. We worked with the Army and with the congressman to get his DD-214 changed. He went off to college, got his 4-year degree, started 2 small businesses, raised his family, and he's been there 3 years. And so he's done all that. He had the will and the desire to change. He just didn't have an avenue of approach, And so to see that was amazing to me. Single moms, I watched single moms come there with children who not only are raising the kids, they're working, they're trying to go to school. We had a single mom in 3 years raised like $35,000 saved to buy a house with, And so you just see this almost every day. You see these kind of things every single day. And every year, 10 or 12 families move on. They come in and they spend 3, 4, 5 years there and they move on. And almost every single one of them is a huge success story. I mean, I could go on for hours of all the things I've seen. So it's just amazing to see. It really is. Yeah. And, I was just thinking, too, you guys have a Guitars for Vets program there. Yes, absolutely. Tell me a little bit about that, because I know you're involved. To do. Yeah, that's my favorite thing to do. I'm a guitar player. I've been playing guitar for 40 years, and I was at the VFW headquarters in Kansas City back in 2022 and saw VFW magazine laying on the lobby table and said right on there, VFW partners with Guitars for Vets to help bring music to veterans. And so I was like, that's got to come to the National Home. and so we did. We brought it there, and we did 2023, first part of 2023, we graduated 4 guitar players, and 2024 we graduated 6, and this last year we graduated 10. And it's just so rewarding to see these veterans come in, and they're just as vulnerable as day one at basic training. They don't know what they're going to get into. They don't know whether they can do this. They don't know. They want to do well. They don't want to fail.
and they spend a couple of lessons with the guitar teachers, and then you see them start to bond. You see them start to each other showing each other stuff and helping them. And so they do a half-hour private lesson and a half-hour practice in the community room. And that's where they kind of all start that bond, is when they're practicing. And it's from 5 to 7, 10 weeks in a row. It's 12 weeks altogether, 10. They have to do at least 10 lessons. 5 to 7 every Tuesday night. And I'll be doggone if 3 or 4 weeks into it, I can't get them to go home. It's 7, 7:30, 7:45. And I'm like, you guys got to go home, you know. And sometimes it's about playing guitar. Sometimes it's about sharing stories. And so it's just so amazing to watch. You know, music soothes the soul. It heals the soul. I personally believe it heals the soul. And to watch these folks graduate, and it kills them. They're like, what, we're done? This is over? We can't come back? Yeah, the class is over. It's you can, you know, you did your 10 weeks. You got your guitar. But so now we do jam sessions. And so once a month we try to get together, and they come in and play and plunk and do different stuff. And so, but then it's always about stories and getting to know each other and inviting each other to kids' birthday parties or whatever. It's just amazing to watch.
Right. Well, I mean, it's its own small community. I mean, really you pretty much take care of. You have your own energy. You have your.
That's right.
It's almost like your own little small town.
It is.
Outside of Eaton Rapids.
It is. We do buy electricity from Eaton Rapids, but we own all of the distribution system. We have our own water supply. We have our own water treatment facility. We have our own wastewater treatment facility, and we're self-contained. You know, and all the houses have generators. So if the power does go out, the house is not without power.
I heard that one of them said the best thing that they had in that house when the power went out was the Generac system.
That's right. Yeah, because they didn't even notice. You know, they might have saw a flicker in the lights, and that's about it. And everything ran perfect. So,
and so. You got a few years left being the executive director there. What are your aspirations for the future?
Grow. I will tell you that in 2023, we had a new problem we hadn't had in a long time, and that's all the houses were full. And it kind of hurt me a little bit to think there's families that can't move in right now. There's no room for them. We don't have room at the inn, you know, and so we can't let that happen. And so 43 houses, that's not a lot of families. So we need to grow. We need to make sure there's room for 50 families or 55 families or whatever. And so over the next 4, 5, 6 years, I'm hoping to grow. I'm hoping to grow at least 7 or 8 more homes so that we don't keep running into this problem of there's no place at the inn, there's no room at the inn. So I never want to turn a family away. If I can help it, I want them to come and be a part of our program. And
so is there a waiting list that you guys have, or... So what happens when you fill all? We
put them on a waiting list. We put them on a waiting list, and you know, by and large, by the time it's time for them to move in, they've moved on to a different program, which probably wouldn't have been successful for them as what this would. And that kind of is where it hurts. You know, it's like, oh, we got somebody to help us with some cash. We're back to suffering along. You know, and so then they don't want to move. And once they've been told they're on a waiting list, they feel like they've been turned down. And
right.
So then it's hard to get them to come back. So.
Yeah, and so, you know, I'm trying to think of how much a house would cost.
Well, I can tell you.
Okay. Well,
I can tell you. So we have 2 models we're working on. We have a single-family home, which is it's about a 1,650 square foot ranch style, barrier-free, handicap-accessible home, open concept. Everybody wants open concept these days. That's about $350,000 to build. We're looking at townhouse-style duplexes that if you've seen the National Home, you'll know, or you can just visualize these big 2-story brick homes on campus. These townhouse-style duplexes will look like those big 2-story homes. There'll be 2 townhouses are about $1,850 either side. We can build them from about $550,000. And so that's what we're working on. Mostly is to get those townhouse-style duplexes in place.
So if you're listening out there and you want to donate a house, if you're one of those 7 states that hasn't jumped on board yet, that's and you want to put your state on a house.
For a measly $275,000, you can help build half a duplex.
No, and they can call you up.
That's right.
And so for our listeners out there, if they want to learn more about the VFW National Home, is it VFWNationalHome.org or what is this?
That's exactly right. VFWNationalHome.org. It's our website. You can go there and learn about the home. You can go there and donate. You can go there and sign. You can get help. You hit the Get Help button and go right to the application process if you think you're someone or your family would be eligible to do that. So it's all right there on the website.
And so that application process, how grueling is that? Just out of curiosity for veterans out there maybe who are thinking about it. Hey, this might be a fit for me. I'm having these issues. Let me check it out.
Yeah, it's a 30 to 45 day process. It's not quick. And the reason it's not quick is there's a lot of documentation that needs to be gathered. So it starts with about 11 questions that you fill out on the website. Those questions will be sent to one of the case managers. We call it the helpline managers, and they will assess those. And from there, if you qualify from those, and they're real simple. Did you serve? Did you have a discharge? Do you have a family? Do you have custody of your children? Because it's important. You have to have children to live there. You can't just move if you don't have children. Get those questions answered. Someone will give you a call and say, yeah, you're eligible. From here, you're eligible. And now here's what we need. You need your DD-214, your marriage license, your children's birth certificates. It's just this long line of documentation to prove that you're eligible to live there. And then they start working on the goals. What are your goals? If you call and say, I don't really got any goals, I just want a free house, you're probably not eligible. And so, you really got to have some goals, some things in place that you want to do with your life over the next 3 to 5 years to be successful. And that's the part of the assessment process they go through. Then they usually have an online assessment interview, and then they have an in-person one if you're close enough. If you're not close enough, they'll do a Zoom. But they do want to see the family, and see what they look like and make sure they're who they say they are.
Of course.
Usually 30 to 45 days. Then the assessment comes to my desk. Myself and the program director will go over it together, and if we feel that's the right fit, then we invite them to come live at the National Home.
Wow. That's amazing stuff that you guys are doing out there.
I love it. And it's a great place.
I bet you the sense of gratitude when you watch them go from A to Z.
Yeah.
And, you guys have that party that lasts hoorah before they go out and experience life again.
Yeah.
On a way better footing than when they began. That's got to be something.
It's almost tearful. It's like you watch these kids grow. The child gets there at 5 years old. Now they're 10, 9, 10 years old when they leave, or they get there when they're 10. Now they're getting ready to graduate high school. And, it's like they're part of your family. It's like I'm Uncle Mike, so it's kind of hard to watch them go. But it's also very exciting to see them go, too.
I was watching a clip on the VFW National Home, and it was a lady. She must have been 98 years old, and she had lived there all of her, most of her
young
life.
Yeah, from 2 years old. Her name is Betty.
Betty,
about
yes.
Betty. Betty was the 1931 Buddy Poppy child, and so she pinned the president. She pinned Eisenhower, or no, FDR. She pinned FDR with his Poppy, the first Poppy, and so now she's 98, and she'll tell you this is home. From 2 to 18 years old, she lived there 16 years. And so,
wow,
yeah, it's pretty amazing.
See, and when I hear stuff like that, obviously it gives me the chills again. Hey, being a Marine, that might make me sound a little weak, but it just means I got a heart in there somewhere. A heart,
that's right. Down there somewhere is a heart. That's right. So
and so, out of everything that we talked about, what is the number one thing that you want to tell people throughout the nation about the VFW National Home?
I would say if you think you're eligible, apply. Don't not apply, and don't worry if you get on a wait list. I would also say think hard about what you want to do over the next couple of years or next 3 or 4 years. And if you have those kind of goals, financial, educational, vocational, whatever those goals are, make sure they're in your heart, because when you come there, we're going to work you. You got to do it. Every person over the age of 18 has to do 40 hours of productivity a week. Now that makes it sound like a county farm where everybody's got to go out and work the field or something, but that's not the case. That 40 hours is education, employment, or if you're 100% disabled, permanent total, volunteer. You got to get out of the house. You got to go do something. And so you can't sit around the house, watch TV all day and wait for the check to come in. You got to get out and do something. Be a productive part of society. And that's what they need to know. When you come there, don't come there expecting to take it easy. It's work. It's time. We're not in the end zone. We're in the tunnel.
Yeah.
We're coming out. So.
And there's a light at the end of that tunnel, and that's that veteran, that serviceman or woman to be successful in life.
That's right. That's exactly right.
And you guys provide all the tools. Yep. You provide all the access.
Yep.
Anything that they need, you guys pretty much provide for that time until they're ready to spread their wings and show America what they actually could do.
Be a member and a veteran of the community. That's right. So.
Well, Sergeant Major.
Yes, sir.
It's been very nice having you on Warfighters United. And, we're going to be putting this up on our website. I believe it already is. But, we'll never stop supporting and being a part of the VFW National Home.
We appreciate that.
And I wanted to thank you for being on Warfighters United and getting some of this information out there to servicemen and women, our veterans throughout the state of Michigan, hopefully throughout the nation. Any saved rounds before we go?
I tell you, I could stand at the top of the mountain and talk about this all day. Spread the word. Maybe you're not eligible, but somebody you know may be. You got a family member or a friend that sounds like just the right person. Tell them about the National Home. I say it's the zombie apocalypse. You've now been bitten. Go bite somebody else. And so let's make it work for all of us.
I like that. So if you want to learn more about the VFW National Home, you can go to vfwnationalhome.org, or you can go to warfightersunited.com. If you want to listen to more of the podcast, you can go to Warfighters United Podcast on Facebook. And if you want to email me or you want some information, anything I talk about on this podcast, it's warfightersunitedpodcast@gmail.com. Well, thank you so much for being a part of Warfighters United. And Mike, I hope that you are very successful in the years to come with the VFW National Home.
Thank you. We're glad to be here. Thank you.
Hoorah.
To speak with Eric Calley and Warfighters United, you can email him at eric@warfightersunited.com or call 517-699-0111.